Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Susanna, thank you for everything that you've done. Regina, oh man, you speak to my heart. And all of us are inspired by your, as they say, true grit, but the way that you give and the grace that you have. Um, this women's conference is because of a dream that you and Cece had because of all that you went through. So thank you so much. And to the team who put this on, you guys are rock stars. Well, you're in for a treat because we have two phenomenal women elected officials who are going to join us. And we're going to do, for my Pacific Islander friends, we're going to talk story today. So we're going to talk a little bit about political lessons learned. But in that, we're going to talk about some of the struggles, but also the triumphs. So I am super thrilled to be joined by the very fabulous sister friend, State Treasurer Fiona Ma, and Fremont's Mayor Lily May. I'd like each of you to introduce yourselves, and talk a little bit about, how you got here and how you made the decision. I mean, Fiona, you're the 34th treasurer. You're the first woman of color and the first certified CPA to hold the position. That's huge. Mayor, you were the Fremont's first mayor and the first minority mayor in Fremont's 63-year history. That's amazing. So Fiona, let's start with you, girl. Let's talk a little bit about what made you decide to run.
All right, so my father just came home and my dog may start barking, so I apologize. But, I never thought I would be in elected office. My parents were both born in China, came to the United States for the American dream, wanted my brother and I and my sister to be one of the lead professions, a lawyer, engineer, accountant, or a doctor. So I am an accountant, my brother's an engineer, my sister is now a doctor. Chiropractor. So my parents are like finally happy. However, I do think, Lily reminds me that her and I both served on the Girl Scouts, Brownies and Girl Scouts. We came from the East Coast, and that was a big thing. And I really do believe if you want to run for office, joining the Brownies or the Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts is, hi, Dad. Say hi, Dad. Dad. I'm on a Zoom call right now, so okay, all right. Come over there. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, this is life in the law household. But I do think serving, number one, Girl Scouts, Brownies, it teaches you as women that you get awarded. We get our badges, right, if we do good deeds. Unlike men or little boys who are taught to go and get a newspaper route or go shovel, the snow out of a driveway or mow someone's lawn for money, women, we weren't really brought up that way. And so I was also really good at selling Girl Scout cookies. And if you're good at selling Girl Scout cookies, you may have a life in politics, because like selling Girl Scout cookies, you have to go around your neighborhood, right? You have to know your neighbors, go door to door. You have to go and sell the cookies. Then you have to deliver the cookies. You have to collect the money. And then you have to keep in touch, right? The rest of the year. And they're always like, hey, when are you going to sell your cookies? It's kind of like an election, the same thing. So did that. Went to school in the Rochester Institute of Technology for accounting, started with one of the big 8 accounting firms. My parents were really, really happy. And then after 5 years, left to start my own practice. And that's when I got involved in politics at the age of 28. I became president of the Asian Business Association, and all of a sudden I was thrust out there having to advocate for more business opportunities for women and minority business owners. And I started to understand, number one, there weren't a lot of people like me in government. Number two, there weren't a lot of women. And number three, even though small businesses are the backbone of our economy, it is so hard to run a small business here in the state of California. And I became that voice for them. I still am. This is my 4th elected position, and I still have that passion for small businesses. Even during this time, we have pivoted to creating resource guides for small business, nonprofits, individuals, seniors, food, and tax relief. So just trying to do everything we can to educate and make sure that all these PPP and EIDL programs are accessible to small business owners, because they really, really are hurting at this time. So I look forward to today, but that's just kind of a summary. And again, thank you to Regina and Cece. They formed APAPA in 2001. I got elected to the Board of Supervisors in 2002, and they've always been behind me. And as you can see, their mission has been accomplished, because we do see more Asians in the legislature, more Asians as constitutional officers, and we owe a debt of gratitude to the two of them and APAPA for allowing me to be here. And I'm sure Lily, they're just so supportive of everyone running for office, regardless of your gender and regardless of your party affiliation. So
Great. Thanks, Fiona. Mayor, want to tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. So thank you for this opportunity. First, I want to congratulate Regina for being a shero to so many of us in the community. And we're so blessed to have the opportunity to be able to participate in these conversations and programs. And I also want to thank you, Mona, for being a great role model for all of us, as well as so many of the other speakers. I've had the opportunity to work with many of them over the past few years. I have been a resident of Fremont for 26 years, and I got involved much like many other people do because of something that's important. And not just the Girl Scout cookies, though I did sell Girl Scout cookies. And I agree with you on that background in terms of getting out there in your community. I was also an orchestra and sold hoagies. I think my neighbors probably thought I would be a pro at precinct walking one day, because I even delivered hoagies in the snow before. So you get to deliver all different methodologies, and you figure out your way to get out there. I think my neighbors were afraid to open the door because I'm selling something again. But it taught you persistency and creativity and perseverance. But I got involved with my children in schools, and I think that one of the roles that I'm very proud of is to be a mother. I have two MIFs, Made in Fremont products. They are now 23 and 19. And so one is now working in Seattle. My daughter is working as a software engineer for Amazon in Seattle, and my son is in college. And I got involved when my children were going to school and we had an overcrowding problem. And rather than just going to complain about the issue, which many people do, and you can go and cry and yell and scream, but I went and pulled their board policies and documents and made a presentation. And it was the only thing that passed the committee that had been meeting for 2.5 years. But when I got to the committee, it got rejected, and they're like, give up. And I was like, that's really not my style. And so I went and started writing the school board, and I explained to them the situation. And I was like, okay, you may not want to hear from me, but this is a chance for me to express our concerns. And so I got to present to them. They rejected me. And then the first day of school, I ended up on the front page of the local newspaper. And I was joking with them that you might see me on TV next. But by chance, my daughter did get into the school because of different things that happened. But there I could stop the story, but rather than just look at it, and it wasn't about my child and the situation, it was about the policies and things that I felt could change. So I got involved with school PTA and school site council. And as my children got older, there was opportunities to participate. And one of the pivotal moments was talking about school reboundaries. And a lot of this, when it comes to children, I will say, having served on school board and other roles, nothing gets more emotional than your family, be it fur family or your children. And so in that case, I just felt it was important for us to have a communications and dialogue with the school board in a positive way, not just blaming anyone for the policies, but actually being part of the solution. So years later, then I ran for school board. And I think it's important in this dialogue and community discussions right now that we're having, that it's not just about us alone. It's about working across the aisles, across the different ethnicities, across different social boundaries, to talk about how can we bring people together. And when I was on the school board, I thought it was important. We brought back the Council of Presidents. And so I served as the president for the Asian Pacific Islander School Board Members Association. And that worked closely with the Latino, Black, Native American caucuses with California School Board Associations. And when you don't see something you like there, rather than complain about it again, we say we don't have a seat at the table, then reset the table, make it something that you have a seat at, redefine it, and make it something that you're part of. And so I have to thank California School Board Associations for allowing us to do that and to be part of the conversation with their board. And as my children grew up, and now, as I mentioned, that they're older, I felt that my background originally, just to let you know, was more in technology. So I had been a product manager, I was a worldwide sales controller, and I ran a trade association preventing counterfeiting for high-tech goods. So not quite the traditional background. And so part-time, I'd be sitting there at the soccer field, and then people were saying, "Did you write to me from Singapore last night?" And I literally had been running a meeting, had dinner with the clients, got on a plane, was picking up my kids after school. And so people just didn't know that, that happens. So as my kids got older, I ended up wanting to help with our city in this pivotal moment when we're going through tremendous change. And so I served on the city council. And 4 years ago, I ran as the mayor for Fremont. And I was so privileged to be able to be elected here in our city as the first woman in our city's history, the first minority and the first woman Asian mayor in our city's history. And while we were talking earlier about representation and people being at the table, and I heard people also talking earlier about how when you look around the room, you see somebody's missing. I'm sometimes so shocked when I go to these meetings, and I serve on the advisory council for U.S. Conference of Mayors, and also I serve on National League of Cities and some of our committees. And I was surprised a couple years ago when I saw APAC's put up something for Women History Month, and I thought it couldn't be right. And I am currently, I think I'm the third large city U.S. Asian woman mayor in history of the U.S. And I think there's a fourth one, which is Mayor Guo of Bakersfield. But we have a long way to come still, and we hope to go further. And this is only happening because people like this and our conversations were able to uplift and bring forward the next pipeline and bench of our future leaders. So thank you for this opportunity.
That's right. Thank you. Oh, wow. Reset the table. I love that. So being the first Asian Pacific Islander woman elected to your respective positions, what are some of the misconceptions that you've faced, either from constituents, from colleagues, or opponents? Fiona, you want to start?
Well, I think people tend to underestimate us or underestimate me. It doesn't matter, that I have 3 degrees and I'm a CPA and I've been elected to 4 different offices. I still feel like they question, right? Oh, you're the treasurer? Oh, that's a big job, isn't it? It's like, yeah, it's a big job, but I'm qualified to do this job, and I think I'm doing a good job at being treasurer. So I feel like men mostly talk down to me. Plus, this field, I'm the state's banker, and so I deal with a lot of bankers and a lot of financial institutions, and most of them are, men and Caucasian men. And now, because I'm the treasurer and my chief of staff, Genevieve Jopanda, is Filipina, and we go to all the meetings, they now have to invite more Asians and women to sit at the table, which I think is a good thing. So by us being here, we're quiet as Asians. We don't say a lot. We don't command a lot. But they understand when we come into a room what we are, what we represent and what we would like to see. And like Regina said, diversity. She said, diversity makes you successful. And similarly, when we do find diversity in government, in business, in education, it's true. It changes the dynamic. But I also have to be very, very deliberate. Like, I want my office to look like the state of California. I want my commissions to look like the state of California. Any body that we convene as an ad hoc or stakeholder committee, I'm always like questioning, like, how many women? How come there's only 1 woman out of 12? How come there's no Asian, Latinos, African Americans? And if you're not questioning, well, then we're never going to change the status quo. And so by being here, I understand my role, but also, like Lily says, we need to open up those opportunities for other people and make sure that our environments are diverse and representative of the people that we represent here in California.
That's right. That's right. Lily?
So I absolutely agree. I know that I didn't mention when I was younger, I also was in computer science club, and I was the only girl in computer science club. And at that time, I actually ended up being the president of the club at one point. But, that was through actually Explorers, and I was actually a Boy Scout too. So I was an Explorer. So I was a Girl Scout and a Boy Scout before it was okay to be, I guess, a quote unquote a Boy Scout, or easily to be son. I know that there's a lot of impressions, and I know that my predecessors as mayors are much more statuesque, and people would say, "You're the tiniest mayor." But my name in Chinese, I jokingly tell people, means Miss Tall or Miss Big. So I literally mean it. But there's a lot of impressions, and I think part of it is not just the gender aspect, but also sometimes the heritage by which we are falling into. And as an Asian woman, when I first got on as the council member or as mayor, I had 4 colleagues that were male, and I actually had someone in the public ask me, you're the only woman. What happens if the 4 guys don't want to listen to you? And you're sitting there going, okay, what do you mean? But you're trying to explain in a way that you can understand. The best way I could give it as an explanation, everybody has a mother, a daughter, a sister, a wife. And I was joking, and I said, I have a husband and son. Sometimes they don't get the choice, and I imagine it'll be the same for them. So, but more so than that, I think it's important not just to tell people that you're able, it's to come prepared. It's to come and demonstrate it, to actually show the credibility. I feel, especially as the first in some of these categories, you don't want just to be there as a token representative. You want to show that you've earned that, and that you're able to demonstrate the ability to work with others to prove that. And that's why I'm so pleased. Like I said, over the years, I've known Fiona for a couple years, and she's somebody who was, when I was on the school board side, out in our community and creating issues and awareness that are important for us in health and wellness. And so creating awareness of hepatitis B and encouraging our students to be involved. And out of that, there was one young lady who was on a student board member at that time, and she's gone on to do great things. And so we don't know always what we're doing in terms of creating a pipeline, but you are a role model. And I think that I just want to thank her for being able to show that with our community.
Wow, both of you are role models and rock stars. That's awesome. Is there a particular lesson that you've learned in politics and that you'd like to share with everyone? Who wants to go first? Fiona?
I want to loop in Mona here, since it's just the 3 of us. So,
yes.
I don't think I would have run for treasurer had you not been the lieutenant governor. And if you don't see people in a certain role, you don't think that you can do it. So, I mean, I would really love to hear, what it was like to be lieutenant governor. People always, that was one option. My husband was like, you would be a great lieutenant governor. You love this state. You just go around and promote the state. Like, was that a fun job?
Thanks, Fiona.
Yes, we want to hear from you.
Well, it was a fun job. But, if we talk about lessons learned, one of the things that I learned in that office is when then Lieutenant Governor John Garamendi, who would won a special election to a congressional seat, as he was preparing to transition, he talked, I prepared the memo on who would take his place or be the interim, because the Constitution, the California Constitution, says the chief deputy will be the acting until the governor elects or nominates and the legislature approves. Well, as I was sitting there talking to John about all of the different things that, that needed to happen, and maybe he might want to use this as an opportunity to put somebody else in the office, he looked at me and said, "What do you want, Mona?" And without really thinking, it was that oldest of 5 Filipina kind of sometimes, maybe not thinking. I went, well, I want it.
Exactly.
And without blinking, without thinking, he said, "You got it. This is yours." So the lesson is, take a chance. When someone offers you something, go for it, do it. So that was that. But I literally walked out of the office after going, "Oh my God, did I really just say that?" Because part of it is maybe there's somebody else that's better. And that's a lesson that I think I've had to face my whole life. And that is, yes, I can do it. But there is, we all struggle with the confidence sometimes. And he, though, at that moment, took any doubt away from me. So the lesson here is, people work for folks who can support you and will help your dreams.
Yeah. And so you and I we still serve on California Women Lead.
Yes.
And we try to get women into the pipeline, get them appointed to gubernatorial commissions. But so many times when you ask a woman, they'll say, well, can I do it? I'm not sure. What are the qualifications? Let me think about it. Let me go talk to my family. Let me think about it. And it takes a long time sometimes to get women to even step up and apply for a position. And as Lily knows, running for office, I think Lily and I are kind of the same way. We're like, well, what are you going to do next? Yeah, of course I'm going to run for mayor. Of course I'm going to run for this. I mean, and that's where men are, used to stepping up. Even if they're not qualified, they'll always say, oh, I'm in. And the women are like, I don't know. Okay, let me get back to you. But by that time, a lot of people are, already endorsed and they already have a horse in the race. And so as women, we have to be more confident. We have to know what we want. We have to tell people what we want and also build that team around you. Because if you're going to wait for people to nominate you as you go up the ladder, trust me, not that many people are going to nominate you because other people want that position. So you have to go nominate yourself, right? And I think as we get older, we're all kind of in the same age range.
Yes.
We do have more confidence. We don't have to wait for people to, to prop us up anymore. And we're just, we're there, like we're here, we're in our 50s. I mean, I think the 50s are the best. So I no longer really care a lot about what society, says about me. I know what I'm doing. I sleep well at night. I try to do the right thing. And so it's great to be in your 50s, I think.
Well, I think from that perspective, I think that you have to be you. You are, I guess, I've seen the slogan, be beautiful, be you. And the sense that I have a former school board member that used to work with me, and Ivy Wu, and she'd say, no one can out you. You're yourself, and you're the best version of you. And there's a reason why. Sometimes I think you were talking earlier about how you don't feel the confidence. And I've heard that when you look at jobs and applications, women will have 9 out of 10, and they'll be like, wait, should I qualify? I'm missing something. And gentlemen can sometimes have 6, and they're like, oh, yeah, no problem. And the confidence that varies a lot. And having these mentors or people that I would say support you are very important. When I ran the first couple times, I had a very non-traditional campaign. I did not have campaign consultants. And I had, I jokingly joke and said that it's my mom squad. These are women who've known me since my kids were in kindergarten, who are some of the best friends. And I really valued them because what it told me is that, if they wouldn't vote for me, no one would. And so they're honest, brutally honest, and they really cared about the community. And we shared that commonality. There was no gain for them in terms of anything that they personally wanted, other than to see our community be better. And that made me feel more empowered and more responsible, because the fact that, I felt that I was accountable to my friends in the community, because those are the people who got me elected. And those are the people who really make a difference. You don't have to be a leader to be elected to be a leader or to have a title. I think it's having that big heart. And right now we're seeing that in the situation I was mentioning earlier. And I'm wearing red today, partially for that, is in honor of my firefighters and all the people that are out there doing this right now, and how much it means to our communities, and more so not just them, but their families for giving up the time. So, I think that we need to respect that with all of our community and to honor and build that pipeline. So thanks.
Great. How have you, obviously there's a lot of risk taking in this. How have each of you embraced risk taking? Fiona, you are constantly the person that I have known that has been like the furious, just the woman warrior. Someone says, go do this. I can't do it. Fiona Ma's the first person in line running up the mountain. How do you embrace that? I mean, what gave you that kind of will to just go for it?
Well, earlier you met my father. So growing up, I was the oldest child, and my dad kind of treated me like a son because I was always the one like, yeah, let's go wash the car. Or, yeah, I want to go to the hardware store with you. I want to, mow the lawn. Teach me how to do that. And so my dad always said, you could do whatever you want. And even if I really wasn't very good, I remember one time I tried out for the choir and I sang a solo, and my parents like, oh, my dad's like, you're great. Looking back, I probably wasn't that good, but I never knew it. And so growing up, I just was always encouraged to go and try it and do it. And they always supported me. And I think that's important, right? Growing up, if you have parents that encourage you versus saying, well, why are you doing that? That's dumb. I don't know whether you qualify or you can do that. So I think I was very, very lucky to have my dad as my biggest cheerleader. And then now, I mean, that's just kind of who I am. I'm curious. I'm super, super type A. I like people. I like to meet people. I like to see people. I like to get out. I like to learn. And so this job, being an elected official, really suits my personality. Since March, I've been sitting in the office a lot, Monday through Friday, which reminded me of why I don't want to be an accountant ever again and why I work so hard to keep in elected office. But again, it's about, number one, like Lily said, finding mentors. Number two, working hard. And I do believe what Lily said, we always have a bigger, we have the double standard all the time. And even in my job now, I chair 16 different boards and commissions, and I chair all of them. I get in the weeds. I want to know what they're doing. I want to sponsor legislation based on, what we're doing in the treasurer's office. I'm active with the National Association of State Treasurers. But that gives me the confidence, because I never want to be at a meeting where I'm saying, well, I don't know, or, oh, let me call someone, or I'll have someone call you back. I mean, I've done about 60 webinars right now, and I can pretty much answer all the questions, but that's because I'm reading, I'm learning, I'm researching, I'm talking to people. And that's kind of, the double standards that we have, is that when they hear you and they know that you know your stuff, that you're articulate, that they understand where your heart is, then they start going, oh, okay, she's a good treasurer, right? And I think I've worked a lot harder than most treasurers. You worked with one treasurer before, but they are my team, and I want them to succeed. And that means understanding who they are, what motivates them, but also they're my family. And I always say, you need to treat your staff better than you treat your family. My husband and my father will be there regardless of, my bad moods or whatever I'm going through, but your staff, they have a choice. And so I have 430 team members at the treasurer's office. And I really, hope and I want them to be successful in whatever they're doing in their life. And I hope that comes through. And if they're happy, they're going to be happier at their jobs, and this treasurer's office is going to be, that much better. And so that's kind of, my attitude is all about the people, just making sure that we not only represent, but that we also treat people well, but that we support others and encourage them to grow in whatever capacity that they care to.
So for me, I think part of it, being elected, I know Fiona was talking about that, is not just hearing from people and say, I represent you, but also being part of it. As the mayor, we literally are building our city right now and going through major periods of change, whether it's infrastructure or in this time of COVID, delivering PPE. And so I've been able to work with so many members of our faith-based, community-based organizations. We've delivered over 100,000 face masks. We've delivered them in the rain. I've literally crawled through windows almost in delivering them. And, when we're doing our food bank and our handouts of food, we've handed out over 10,000 boxes of food. And I was saying that, I've directed traffic, and I'm happy to see the people out there. And I'm kind of excited, but also nervous that people can recognize me when I'm in plain clothes with a mask on. And they're like, hi, Mayor. And I'm like, wow, it's good to be that well known, I guess. But it's important to be part of the community. Fremont is the fourth largest city in the Bay Area with almost 250,000 people. And yet it was originally 5 small towns that came together. And that's what makes its charm, is being able to know the people and to be out there, whether it's helping Habitat for Humanity and doing the actual building of the houses, or to walking with your community members on different issues and to understand how this transportation method will change the way we commute. It really empowers us better to represent people if we understand their stories. And it's not something I could read about in a report from any study. It's really hearing from the people themselves. And I know at times it's a little bit hard because of the fact that there's still only 250,000 of them and one of me. it makes it a challenge, but I really do care. And I think that that's hopefully what comes across when we serve. But if we get the next pipeline and people and get our youth and the others involved, it makes things much better. Many hands make light work. And in this situation right now, be it the COVID or economic disparities that we're facing or racial equity and these discussions about justice, social justice, it means us being bold, but it also means us being thoughtful. And I'm a person like Fiona who likes data because I was also a worldwide sales controller. I like looking at data. I like arguing that because I think that makes it more objective when I'm talking in front of a board of supervisors, other people. It's not just emotional that I'm demanding something, but it's rational and it's proven with some thought process behind it. And that makes us more credible, I think, when we're out there talking to others.
That's wonderful. I love the mom squad, and Fiona has the ma squad.
Right.
You sisters are rocking it. So, just the other day I was on a call with some interns and they picked the questions. One of the questions they asked me is, how do I handle failure? And I thought, is this being recorded? And I shared a story when I worked for Governor Brown, and we did appointments. We did over 3,000 appointments. There was in the first year, there was a mistake that was made, and there are some appointments that require Senate confirmation, and the paperwork wasn't sent up to the Senate in time. We have so many days to do it, and it was between Christmas and New Year's, and I got a phone call from a staff member who was crying and said, I don't know what to do. And I said, well, hold on. There's always got to be a way. Did you call? A lot of people up there. Might they make an exception because of the holidays? She said no. She goes, oh my God, am I going to get fired? I said, you're not going to get fired. But what we are going to do, and I had to, as we have to be mindful of how we lead, because I think people are always watching how we handle situations. I said, we just have to tell the governor. Now, inside, I was thinking, oh, my God, I think I might be fired, because the two people that we made the mistake with were friends of the governor. So we go into the office the next day, and the governor's looking down and walk in. I said, hey, I need to talk with you about something. He doesn't look up. He just continues to look down. Fiona knows Jerry well. And I thought, well, this is it, man. This is going to be a bad situation. And I had the two staff members who knew of the process mistake come with me, because I wanted it to be a teaching moment. And one of them was, had tears coming down, and I was like, time out, no crying. We got to get through this. And I proceed to tell him what had happened. And then without looking up, he said, whose fault is this? Who did it? And I said, my team, my fault. And he says, that's not what I asked. I asked, who did this? Whose fault? And I looked over there, and the tears were like, huge tears now. And I said, I told you, my team, my fault.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, all right, well, that's all I asked. And then he says, well, what do we do? Figure out, just give him a call and tell him, we'll take care of it in 365 days. But the lesson there is that how lucky I was to have worked for somebody who you could tell the truth, tell them about the mistake. And, I'm sure he was disappointed and upset, but he asked the question, whose fault is it? And I had learned over the years from working with great people and having phenomenal mentors that I owned it. So do you have a story about a mistake or failure that you've made while in office, and how did you handle it?
Well, I'm like you. I believe in leading by example. And if you're the boss or your name is on the door, it's your fault, ultimately. So use it as a learning lesson. How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? What were the communication breakdowns? And sometimes it's because, I didn't get everyone into the room. And so everyone was doing their own thing, and it caused a lot of confusion and a lot of angst. So we learned from those. But I always say, I will never ask someone to do something in my office that I will never do. Also on the campaign trail, Lily probably is the same way. Like, we are the first ones in the office, the last ones out. We're willing to do everything, knock on doors, stick stickers on our flyers. I was up nailing signs on the telephone poles, right? Because my two guys didn't want to get up on the ladder. But that's what it takes to be a good leader. And don't throw people under the bus. People remember that. And if you are one of those people that throw people under the bus, nobody's going to want to work for you, okay? Because you will have a reputation for doing that. And it's all about loyalty, right? In the end, John Burton, my mentor, always said, hey, remember who brought you to the dance? Number 2, be a voice for those who don't have a voice. And number 3, stand up, even if you're the only one standing. So those are the things that I strive to be like John Burton every day. It's not easy sometimes, but, ultimately, if, you shouldn't be in the kitchen if you can't take the heat.
There you go. Right on. Lily?
I would agree with Fiona on that. I think right now, especially in this climate right now, it's easier to be a bystander than an upstander. And that's sometimes a very difficult conversation that we have when we're looking at all different opinions. And, here in Fremont, and much like any across the United States, we're having a lot of polarized conversations. And one of the things that's important when we're talking with others is to be able to listen. And that sometimes I've learned, especially with the council, is that we'll have different opinions, but that's actually what makes us better in our solutions, is that we have to listen to everyone's opinions. There's times where you feel like you're on the winning end. There's times where you feel like you're losing, but the point is whether or not you made a difference and shared that discussion. And so there's times where you think like you have the methodology, you've got everything covered, but when you get to the table, you're like, okay, I didn't think of everything. And so it's that willingness to say, I can change my mind. I can come to some compromise. I can come to some agreement because I want us to move forward better together. And that sometimes there's points where you feel like you're the winner and other times that you have to bring people along with you. And that's part of the conversation. And that's one of the things that we're facing right now on so many issues. Do we stay open? Do we stay closed? What are the testing or what are the health things? And I am not perfect by any means. And I recognize that fully and that I'm trying to do my best every day. And it's only because of people on my staff, people in my community, and others try to help with this that we're able to solve these problems. These are unprecedented times.
Yep. Wow. So that just leads me into this question, COVID, we've all been working from home. Some go into the office, a few, every other day. How do you achieve balance, right? Because I feel like with me, I feel like I'm on a video call all day long. And then at night, since I'm home and I'm working from home, I'm going to just stay on the computer and finish everything that I didn't do during the day. And some days I lose, what day it is. How do you achieve balance? I mean, you ladies, you sisters are doing it all, and with grace, confidence, and guts. How do you balance home and work?
Well, because we are the state's banker, over $2.6 trillion, 200, over, oh my God, $2.6 trillion goes through my bank accounts every day. We have to stay open. So I've had 100 people physically that have to be in the office because of cybersecurity, because of checks and balances, that it is just not safe to put these folks on VPNs and send them home on them. So because of that, like I said, I'm the captain. I have also been in the office and my chief of staff as well since March 16th, pretty much every day, Monday through Friday. It has been difficult because my dad is home and I worry about my dad, but he is home and healthy and taking care of the 3 dogs. So it allows me to physically be in Sacramento every day. But it is hard. I have Zoom fatigue when I'm in the office, right? From 8 o'clock, I start on a daily 8 o'clock conference call every single day with my 3 financial divisions, cash management, investments, and public finance. And it goes until 5 o'clock. But at 5 o'clock, I kind of have to turn off. I have to leave. But these days, with all of the campaigns and the GOTV, and everybody wants to do a Zoom call from 5 to 7 o'clock, sometimes 8 o'clock, it does get a little bit more difficult to be physically like sitting all the time. Yeah, so I'm not as thin as I used to be because usually I lose weight by walking around, running around, and I just kind of, sedentary too much. And it is really, really difficult. But on the weekends now, I used to do things Monday through Sunday, right? 24/7, but everything was kind of spaced out. You would work in the office a little bit, you would see people, you would go to events, and that was like my balance. And now, because I'm in the office Monday through Friday, on the weekends, I kind of understand like why people say, oh, I'm taking a weekend off, right? So the weekends are more important. Like I said, I'm watching K-dramas now. Sometimes I stay up till 1 o'clock. One week I stay up till 4 o'clock because I really wanted to finish it. And those are things I never used to do before. Sit in the house, clean the house, wash my dog, groom them, all the little things that I think people, do on the weekends. I just never did, and so now I'm doing it.
Awesome. Lily?
So I am not the best example, I think, of balancing. I am in my office right now, and I know that when I kicked off my campaign a couple of weeks ago, one of my speakers, a colleague, was saying, do I get her a tent or a sleeping bag? And so I feel like the Seinfeld episode where I sometimes sleep in the file cabinet. But, I think that what helps balance me is that I do have a family, and I have to thank my son. Sometimes he'll call me and be like, is it time to pick you up to make sure you're leaving? And that he reminds me, and my friends remind me, like, to take a break. It's hard because there's so many things going on, and there's constant needs within our community. And I think that at times with social media, there's pros and cons. It used to be you exit, it's like Barney Rubble. And for instance, you go to the office every day, beep, and at 8, 9 o'clock, and everyone leaves at 5. But now with social media and the advent of technology, it feels like you can always be reached out and touched. They would like Instamayor, Dial-A-Mayor, or, Snapchat or whatever with you. And it makes it hard at times. But I think that truly it does help me sometimes when I go out to talk to the community. It allows me to decompress. It allows me some time to relax since we're not driving as much. The most events I've been in one day is 11. And
oh my gosh.
I tell people that I start the day really excited. And there's days truly where I, do end up in a puddle because you feel like you're just so tired and you want to help everybody and do everything, but you're limited by the powers that be. And I feel so grateful. I personally have faith, and that helps me a lot to be able to go to prayer and meditation and to be able to say that, I can do all things through people who God who gives me strength. And that gives me a lot of hope and help when I need it. But having those friends and family and having colleagues who take time to tell you how much you need to take a break and how much they care, just little things. It's the little things that make people realize how important it is to take that pause. And so people talking to all of you today, it's a wonderful relaxation. It feels like group therapy at times. And so it's like saying, oh, good, I'm not the only one going through this COVID period in office, but working with one another, like I said, it really helps.
That's awesome. The sisterhood is really real.
Yes.
And I think, there are times, Fiona's one of those people that I can text at the middle of the night and just say, like, I had a really horrible day, but can you please answer this one question? Yes. And, you usually, I think she'll get to me, or she responds right away, always. So it's the sisterhood is real, and helping each other is real. And I think, Fiona, my mom's really into the K-dramas, and I'm starting to watch as well. But the things that I've heard today are: I'm the captain, loyalty, be part of the community, reset the table, only girl in the room, family, collaboration. Can you, as we finish up this panel that I'm so honored to have been on with you two, can you give us a few words of inspiration for the sisters who are watching?
All right. Number one, if you're going to get married, make sure you marry someone who is going to support you. My first husband, we're still friends, but he did not want me to be in politics. My husband now is a firefighter. He's also an elected member of the Oxnard Harbor Commission, so he gets it. And so he understands if I'm going to events or, things run long and, we don't have the perfect weekend that we had because something suddenly came up. I think that is super, super important to find your right partner. Number two, work hard, right? Find those mentors, ask for help. And also when you want something, let people know what you want and ask them to help you get there, because we cannot read people's minds. And so many times someone will run and say, well, I wanted to be in that position. I said, did you tell anyone? So I think you need to be proactive. Number 4, I would say you need to be passionate about what you do. Public service is really, really difficult, but ultimately, this is the best. It's an honorable profession. My father finally is happy that I'm the state treasurer, so I'm not embarrassing him anymore. I'm not wasting my education and my all of my public and private experience. But ultimately, you have to do something that you love every day, because otherwise, it's really, really hard to get up in the morning and motivate yourself if you're not doing something you love every day. So find what makes you passionate and stick to it, work hard, and just be kind to one another. Treat people with dignity and respect, because the people that you see going up are the same people you see coming down. So just be very, very mindful, be humble, be grateful, give back, and, just, love one another.
That's great. Lily?
I would say the same thing, is to be able to look at things differently sometimes, to be innovative, to be creative. And that's one of the things that I balance with my data needs. But always being a friendly and approachable, being someone that has the nerve to ask and reach across the aisle. Sometimes when people aren't willing to listen, that you will take the stand and be willing to stand by yourself if necessary. Be a person with integrity, and be a person who has a heart. I think that sometimes it's underestimated that you can be kind and also successful, that you can be caring and also be convicted in terms of courage. And those are all things that are really important. Thanks for this wonderful time today.
That's wonderful. Man, this is the inspiration that I know I needed, but I know that all the participants, people watching, and you can always go back and watch this again for inspiration. Find a mentor, be yourself, be your true self, family. I love Fiona, marry the right person, so true. But collaboration, because we're at a time when all communities, we need to work together to move forward, and we need to be kind to each other. So ladies, thank you so much for all that you do. And APAPA, thank you too. Yin?
Thank you.